So welcome everyone to Science in Action. Today is Tuesday, February 8th, 2022. We're so excited to continue the Science in Action speaker series, this time inviting back to Skyline College, Tiffany Reardon, former MESA director here at Skyline, and now she is the associate director over at UC Berkeley. Tiffany, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much. It is awesome to be here to talk to you all. I get invited to do similar talks at other schools, but I have to tell you that this opportunity is very special to me because I spent such a long time at Skyline. So Skyline will always, always, always hold a very special place in my heart. And I've always said, if I ever win the lottery, I will be leaving a significant portion to Skyline. Skyline is a very, very special place. So I'm delighted to talk to you today and meet you all. I cannot see the chat, so if you have questions, Brian has generously offered to ask the questions, and so I want to make sure that you have all your questions answered. I'm going to go ahead and this talk will be a combination of things, if you will. So hopefully something for everyone. Okay, so I'd like to know who's here. So so those of you, if you want to use the annotation, if you can, you know, who's here, right? So who's here? What's your major? You can either put it in the chat or you can kind of mark it on the screen, just so I kind of have a sense of who's here. Oh, I can see the chat. Okay, that's actually helpful. So who's here? So if you can mark on here what your major is, or you can type it in. We have math major, very cool. CS, bioengineering, MCB, CS, bio, computer engineering, data science, all right, physics, pre-med, biotech. Okay, so we have everything, all of STEM. Allied health, computer science and engineering, physics. Very cool. And you will know, or if you don't already know, that your major might be called one thing now, but then when you get ready to apply for 4-year, it might be called something else, right? So maybe you're a mechanical engineer, but then when you apply to a school, you might be calling it aerospace. Maybe you're computer engineering, but if you apply to Berkeley, we have the EECS degree, right? But this is helpful for me just so I kind of get a sense of what you're interested in. All right. And no question is a super question, so please feel free to ask questions. Okay. So now that I know who you all are, I don't know. Okay. I would like to kind of give you some background on who I am. So I am Tiffany Reardon. So my professional profile. So I attended San Francisco State University. I'm a native of the Bay Area. I got both my degrees at SFSU. My first professional job out of college was at Skyline. I worked at Skyline for 8 years. It was amazing. I loved it. I enjoyed it. A lot of great colleagues, a lot of amazing students. I ran the MESA program there. And it was great. It was a dream job. It was really fun. I, enjoyed working with students. I have to say our MESA program was a really, strong program. And I was recruited to apply for a position working at the MESA statewide office. And then from there, I went to UC Berkeley, where I created the T-Prep program. And then simultaneously, I also have a side project, which is the RU Finder. So that's my professional profile, right? So you can see all that on LinkedIn. But what you don't know, the true Hollywood story, okay? So when I was at Berkeley, or before I was at Berkeley, when I was at San Francisco State, I was a student parent. So I had my daughter when I was a sophomore in college. I was also a first generation college student. So some of you on the call today, maybe you're student parents, maybe you yourself are a first generation college student. And at the time, I really didn't know what I didn't know, right? So I really was just kind of, I'd go to class, I'd go to work, I'd, take care of my daughter, but I didn't really participate in a lot of extracurricular activities, which is really kind of strange given that, my whole professional career has been, getting students to participate in things. In addition to being a student parent and a first generation college student, I was also then a first generation professional, right? So there were certain nuances and certain things that I didn't know. And I kind of had to, learn by trial and error, right? How to compose yourself in a, professional setting. I remember the first time someone asked me to send them a CV, I had no clue what that meant. I said, what's a CV? What's a CV, right? There were many times like that. And I had to just kind of ask questions. I was also in an environment where through Mesa, most of my colleagues were STEM folks, right? So I am the sociologist, and I had, people with PhDs, people with advanced degrees in STEM. And that kind of, added to the imposter syndrome, right? But then at a certain point, I realized that through all of these experiences, I really know my stuff, right? And so I always call myself an engineer by osmosis because I've been working with engineers for so long that I have some idea and some inkling as to what what students what can be helpful to students. And so when I got the job at Berkeley, they wanted somebody specifically to develop a program for transfer students. And I said, oh, I can do this with my eyes closed. I know exactly what transfer students need when they transfer to the four-year school. And then when I decided to launch my website, imposter syndrome no more, right? It was like, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, I don't care. Maybe I'll make a mistake. Who knows? And there's a certain level of bravery, right? That kind of comes. And I think part of that is when you get a little bit older, you're like, I don't care anymore, right? But those of you, if you're interested in startups, some of you who might be interested in startups, I will tell you, being afraid of failure is something that if you're going to kind of, become interested in startups, you really want to rethink failure. Right? Because failure, part of pursuing things is taking those chances and being passionate about something. So that's kind of the true Hollywood story that you won't see on my Instagram. Okay, so some fun Skyline memories. I loved my time at Skyline. I'm actually jealous of all of you because you have a very, very welcoming community at Skyline. So here's some photos. The MESA program, if you are not involved in MESA, apply, get involved. It's a phenomenal program. Not only will you have the network of MESA at Skyline, but you'll also be privy to the larger MESA network. It's a 50-year-old program. You'll also meet a lot of professionals who maybe were in MESA, when they were in school. And so if you put that on your resume that you're in MESA, and maybe someone who's interviewing you and says, oh, I was in MESA, right? So you naturally have this connection. When I was at MESA, I started the SHIP chapter. I believe it's still active. And we were pretty active in the Region 1 network. Again, another great network for students. We have a question. Sorry, what is MESA? MESA is the Mathematics, Engineering, and Science Achievement Program. We have MESA programs throughout the state and actually nationally, but the MESA, California, Skyline College has a program. And so just summarize what MESA is at Skyline. If you're interested in transferring to a four-year school, They provide academic support, they provide professional development, they provide a study center, and they provide folks who will help you kind of navigate, whatever your academic goals are. So the key takeaway is Mesa is amazing, and dream out loud, right? Dream out loud, ask for help, and take advantage of this outstanding resource that you have. It is free. You do not have to pay for any of this stuff. So I encourage you to explore and to take advantage of the program. So after I left Skyline, I was recruited to work at the Mesa statewide office. That was a very hard job. It was a very hard job because I had to work for the University of California Office of the President. I missed Skyline, but I did learn a lot. And I will tell you, I can't reemphasize enough the amazing network that you will have if you're involved with the Mesa program. Not only will you get invited to conferences, but you'll also, there's a host of things that you can be privy to. When I worked in the UC Office of the President, I thought of myself as like this uncut diamond, right? Because I had this really, really supportive environment at Skyline, but then working at UC Office of the President, it was kind of a challenge, right? You have to meet with a lot of different people. So I was kind of like this uncut diamond, right? I missed Skyline, but I did learn a lot. And I think that wisdom that I learned is actually helpful as I work with students. On that theme of the uncut diamond, when the time came, I had the opportunity to apply for the job at Berkeley. And again, I knew what transfer student needed kind of on the other side, right? When you're at a community college, it's a very, I still have that diamond, I wish. When I got the opportunity to come to Berkeley, I put together a programming for transfer students. One such program is the transfer pre-engineering program. Well, we have other programs. I have a research program, I have a class, there's other things as well. We're doing a global ambassador program where students can travel, and there's leadership programs. But in a nutshell, I think that putting yourself in situations and seizing opportunities, you build upon those opportunities, right? So if those of you that are interested in coming to UC Berkeley, this is a program that you could perhaps participate in, and I'd love to have you in the program. And that's me with a couple students. This is pre-COVID, of course, but this was it's a fun experience. Okay, I'm going to share with you some pearls of wisdom. The number one is, do not compare yourself to anyone ever. Now, there's a lot of things out there on Reddit. There's a lot of things that you might hear from other students, perhaps, about what it takes to be successful. Do not compare yourself to other people. Your story and what you bring to the table is unique. So do not compare yourself to other folks. I cannot emphasize that enough. The personal statement or the personal insight questions. If you're going to be applying to a UC, or if you're going to be applying to any school that requires that you write an essay, you'll probably go to a lot of personal statement workshops. But I have to tell you, the personal statement is basically storytelling, right? So when you write your personal statement, don't tell them what they want to hear. Tell them what you want to say. You're not doing interviews. Sometimes some schools, may interview you, but that's usually for like a program or a scholarship. But this personal statement or personal insight questions, this is your story, right? So remember that as you write them. Did anyone apply this past fall for transfer? If so, you probably will be hearing in a couple of months. And if you haven't yet applied, next year, November 1st and 30th, and for the Mesa folks, the directors on here, November 1st and 30th are going to be very busy times because you're going to have a flurry of students that are going to be working on their essays. But honestly, you can start working. You can start working on those now. Another pearl of wisdom is very few students apply to scholarships. I'm always surprised at how many students do not apply to scholarships. So if you ever see that the deadline has been extended, that means that they haven't gotten enough applications or the pool is not strong. And when I say the pool is not strong, that typically means that what they are looking for in applicants, right? Maybe they haven't gotten students. So if you ever see deadline extended, apply. It means they didn't get enough people. And I've been on a lot of scholarship committees. This last time during the break, I was on the National Science Foundation graduate fellowships, and they actually over-awarded, right? So they over-awarded. So there are a lot of scholarships out there, and you just have to just apply. And if you're organized, it won't even be hard because you've already got all your stuff together. Opportunities await. So don't be that person who passes up an opportunity because you're afraid. Even if you are afraid, feel scared, but do it anyways. Okay. Learn to work with people. This is a skill that is paramount to your success. I know I get a lot of students at Berkeley that are like, I can't stand working on group projects. I wish I could just do it myself. It's easier if I just do it myself. And I gotta be honest, sometimes when I'm working with colleagues, it is challenging, right? Of course, maybe it's easier if we do it ourselves. However, as scientists, as engineers, you have to work with people. You really have to work with people. It's very important if you're interested in doing research, right? You have to work with people. So learning to work with people is a skill. And yes, sometimes it's very trying, but working with people is something that you have to do, right? So even if you're like that person that's like, oh, I want to study alone, don't study alone. Do not study alone, I guarantee you. And my colleagues here will definitely agree on that, right? And so you'll probably hear a lot about that, about, you know, the importance of studying with other people. Okay. All right, this is a funny meme. I actually love memes. So I actually wrote a book during the pandemic, and I literally wrote a book about how to work with people, right? And it was basically stories that I had about working with people. How many of you, maybe you want to raise your hand or do a thumbs up? How many of you are working and going to school? Working and going to school. Now, you might be saying to yourself, yeah, but it has nothing to do with my major. It doesn't matter. The skills that you acquire from working, those skills are very useful and you can apply those in a variety of settings. Okay, let's talk about opportunities, right? So we said, hey, there's opportunities that you should apply for. So let's talk a little bit about research. Is anyone interested in research? And you can feel free to raise your hand, or you can feel free to raise your hand, or you can put it in the chat. Does anyone know what research is? And again, you can feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. If you're interested in research, and I highly recommend that you pursue research or at least consider research. If you're interested, one, it can strengthen your transfer application. Because one of the things that we want to see when you apply, and not just Berkeley, but all of the four-year schools, one of the things that we want to see is we want to see demonstrated interest in the major and preparation for upper division coursework. If you have a research experience, it can do both of those things. One, you have a better understanding of your major, you can demonstrate interest in the major, and you can build connections at your dream university. I've even had students participate in research opportunities and then say, oh, actually, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm really glad I did this experience because I can make a better informed decision about what I actually want to pursue. So I'm a huge champion of getting students involved in research. When I was at Skyline, we actually had a partnership with Stanford. And I remember saying to the folks at Stanford saying, well, look, I'll have my students apply, but you have to guarantee me some slots. And they said, sure, absolutely. And then other schools did that as well. So you may not realize this, but you as STEM students at Skyline, you are a very sought after group. So there's lots of opportunities for you. So I hope that you, will apply to these experiences. 99% of them are paid. If something isn't paid, I don't know that I would necessarily do it, but there are a lot of opportunities that you can pursue. Next slide. Oh, let's see. Okay, so the types of research programs. So when we think about research programs, we can maybe categorize them in 3 different types. We have the summer REU programs. So these are structured programs that usually take place on a university campus or maybe a national lab. And those are usually 8 to 10 week programs, full-time programs, where you'll go away and you'll do research, usually paid. I would not do that if it wasn't paid. And it's a great opportunity for you to get involved in a research project and dedicate time to that research project. The students in the photo that you see are actual students. They're actually transfer students. And they did programs and they did a poster at the end. So a poster is basically a snapshot of the research that you work on. So if you're doing a summer program, that would be a structured program that you would do in the summer. Another kind would be academic year research. I remember when I was at Skyline, there were a number of faculty, including Professor Cap, Professor Case, and probably many others now that would do academic year research with students. There's also local universities. So San Francisco State, for example, I know that they sometimes have partnerships and other schools. So academic year research is also something you can do. And then of course, short-term research projects. A short-term research project would be something that maybe you come up with, right? Maybe you come up with a project that you want to work on and you talk to a faculty for guidance. I remember I believe it was the honors transfer program. They used to have a research seminar that they would do every year. They might still do that. Maybe they do something similar. But again, these are great opportunities to just kind of explore something that you're interested in. And remember when I said not being afraid of failure, right? Maybe you won't get any results. That's okay. Maybe you'll get great results. That's okay too. Maybe you will get results that you didn't know you were going to get, right? Again, kind of jumping in there and not being afraid of failure and just trying it and seeing if you'll like it. We have a couple of questions. Okay, so Stephen L says, is having research experience beneficial when it's unrelated to what you're pursuing? Like you changed your mind about what you wanted to do after a few months of research in one field. Yeah, you don't have to stick to one thing. Absolutely. Maybe I don't know what your major is, but you can absolutely, you can, I have students at Berkeley that, maybe they're bioengineering, but they're interested in medical devices, right? So they're working in mechanical engineering. Or maybe I had a student, it was a Skyline student actually. It was a Skyline student who did research in astronomy. She liked physics. She wanted to do research in astronomy. And she did that, and it turned into her, having a great experience. And then she had this on her resume, and then she applied to future research opportunities. So yes, so don't limit yourself. Good question. Thank you for asking that question. Okay, so some specific programs. So there are some programs that will specifically say, we want community college students. That's easy, right? Because you're like, okay, great. They want community college students. I'm at a community college, so I'll apply. Now, the challenge is not every program will say that, right, specifically, but I've listed a couple here that are, you can apply for that still have deadlines. And you can apply to these programs, but don't limit yourself if it doesn't say community college. If any program that says freshman, sophomore, you can, likely apply to those programs. So if you're a first year student, a second year student, you might be saying, well, I've been at community college for 3 years. Typically, what they're looking for, like, the first 2 years, you can apply. Even if you've been, I had students, and I've had students that were at community college for longer than 2 years, and you can still apply, absolutely. So you can apply as long as they don't specifically say, students that already have a degree or things like that. So you definitely should apply. Okay, so how do you find these research programs, or REUs? Pathways to Science is a really good one. You can apply to that one. The NSF REU search, it's not the most exciting website, but maybe you're interested in a particular school. You can see if they have a program at that school. The third one is REU Finder, the website that I have. And so that one you can apply to, you can look on there. And I actually have a page that specifically says community college students. However, I would highly, highly encourage you to not only look at the community college page, but I would also look at the page that says freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and if you are an international student or you're undocumented student, I also have programs there as well. So there's something for everybody, and only apply to programs that you're eligible for or qualified for. So that's a big one, mainly because you don't want to spend time on something if they're looking for students that are, that have taken upper division courses already, right? And you haven't. Then just apply to something that you're eligible for. All right. So here's some terms that you will encounter. Rolling admissions. So when they say rolling admissions, it basically means that as applications come in, they'll start accepting students. So anything that says rolling admissions, I would apply to those sooner rather than later, versus a program that maybe has a definite deadline. A CV, right? A CV is basically a resume that includes research. Now you might be saying, I don't have any research, and that's completely fine. If you don't have it, that's completely fine. You can a resume. Now you might be saying, and I get this a lot, but Tiffany, my resume doesn't have any work experience related to my major. It doesn't matter. You have what you have. The key is when you write your resume, the key is you want to highlight skills that you have that could be beneficial in a research setting or in a program setting, right? So in the chat, if those of you, I think like 6 or 7 people indicated that they were working and going to school, maybe write down what you do. Maybe write down what kind of job you have, what you do. Like wherever you work, you can put, where you work, what you do, things like that. Principal investigator, that's a term that you will also hear a lot. That basically means the person that's running the research lab. Sometimes they'll say PI, right? So that's a term that you hear a lot. If you ever see a program that says that they're looking for students from institutions with limited research opportunities, you'll say, oh, perfect, that's me, right? So because a lot of these programs want to broaden participation. So actually, in that sense, you would probably have a better chance of getting a research opportunity than say a student who's already at a 4-year, because they could probably do research at their campus. So definitely apply. If the program says first generation college student means Neither parent has earned a 4-year degree from a U.S. institution. So many times I hear students say, well, my brother has a degree. If neither of your parents have a 4-year degree from a U.S. institution, then you are a first-gen college student. Okay, good. So we have a student that says that they are a tutor, but they used to be a hostess and a dishwasher. Okay, so now they are tutoring. So hostess and dishwasher. Okay, so being a hostess, one, that tells me that you're friendly and outgoing, and a dishwasher, that tells me that you're able to, very likely, it sounds like you worked in a restaurant, right? And if you worked in a restaurant, you probably had some food training, some safety training, right? Which is very sought after and necessary if you're working in a lab, right? So don't leave those things off. I'm always so surprised when students will tell me, oh, but I didn't want to put that down because it doesn't have to do with, my major. No, but the skills that you acquire, right? The safety training of working in a restaurant, the people skills, right, of working in a restaurant, put that down. The first job that I had, first, I guess, real job that I had when I was in college, I worked at a grocery store, right? You might be thinking, oh, maybe you worked in a grocery store. Let me tell you, that job in the grocery store helped me so much in terms of dealing with people and working with people. And I have some pretty funny stories about those, which if you read my book, you might think they're funny, or maybe you think, oh, I know what you mean. So all of those things, do not sell yourself short, right? Put those things, even, maybe you're involved in your church. Maybe you are involved, maybe you're a parent, right? Maybe you volunteer at your kid's school, right? Maybe you did fundraising, right? Maybe things like that. So don't sell yourself short. Write these things down and talk to those. There's another question. Will there be any limitations for being an undocumented student or dreamer? No, absolutely not. In fact, here's the thing. The National Science Foundation, if there's a project that is funded by the National Science Foundation, that project itself might have multiple funding sources, right? So maybe the project itself is funded by the National Science Foundation or Department of Energy, but a lot of schools, and I see this a lot in the private schools, and Berkeley is actually doing this as well. They might have multiple funding sources, so they do not have those citizenship restrictions. Now, one thing that I have put together in RE Finder is you'll see all of the opportunities that I have listed. I will put in their citizenship requirements, right? Because the last thing I want students to do is say, oh, this sounds great. And then they, start applying and then they find out, oh, I'm not eligible, right? So I put it out there. So I put their, the GPA, the citizenship requirements, the levels, the deadlines, so then But we've had a lot of students from, many citizenship status, undocumented, international. And like I said, there is something for everybody. So definitely apply. And that goes for scholarships, research, and things like that. So what you'll need, you're going to need a resume, you're going to need essays, and letters of recommendation. So how do you get letters of recommendation? You get letters of recommendation by going to office hours, by talking to people, right? So I know that the things are kind of weird now, right? Like things are on Zoom or they're not on Zoom, or, it's kind of this hybrid thing. But I always tell my students, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So the easier that the easier it is to talk to people if you just kind of put yourself out there and talk to people, right? Maybe the Mesa folks, maybe Brian, maybe, maybe they have an opportunity, right? Maybe they have an opportunity for a student that wants to study bioengineering. And you come in and you talk to one of them and you say, oh yeah, I'm really interested in bioengineering. Voila, they're going to say, oh, I have an opportunity for you, right? But they won't know that until you tell them. So letters of recommendation. What I would recommend is I would keep either a Google sheet or an Excel file, and I would put together a sheet with everything you apply for, whether it's scholarships, whether it's internships, whether it's, REU programs, and put the deadline, a description, and the links. So when you ask for that letter of recommendation, you just cut and paste, right? Here's the program I'm applying to. Here's the link. Here's the deadline. Here's what they're looking for, right? And then you keep it organized. I would also keep your essays in maybe a Google folder, and then you can just modify them, right? So you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. So some of the questions that you might encounter, and this would be, similar for scholarships as well. So they're kind of interchangeable. But one question might be, please explain why you wish to conduct summer research of the type offered by the program and how this relates to your overall interests and goals. So what are your overall interests and goals, right? So really think about what those are and how this program will help you and be a catalyst for you to get to those, interests and goals. The second question has absolutely nothing to do with STEM, but this is where you talk about your life experience, right? These programs are looking for students who are not going to leave the minute that something goes wrong, right? Maybe they don't have results. Maybe they don't, maybe they don't have any results. Maybe their experiment failed and they have to start from scratch, right? And that happens. They don't want students who, the second something goes wrong, that they're going to leave, right? They want students that are going to, have some resiliency, right? So maybe, maybe you are, maybe you've encountered things, right? Maybe you're returning to school, right? Maybe, it could be a variety of things. But the important thing is what you learned as a result of the experience, right? And that wisdom that you bring to that experience and that wisdom that you bring as a student and as a potential member of the lab, that's what they want to see, right? And again, they oftentimes can't interview you. So this is a good way for them to get to know you. We had a question. Is it legit to say, I want to see if I like cosmology as your reason for applying? Yes, that's a good way. What I might also kind of add and weave in there is, how did you become interested in cosmology? Did you watch a documentary? Did you read a journal article? Did you take a class, right? Something sparked your interest. And I would, talk about those things. Remember, when you're writing essays, the more specific, the better, right? The more specific, the better, because people remember details. So letters of recommendation. Approach your recommenders in person or on Zoom. Ask if they can give you a strong letter of recommendation. And when you ask for those letters of recommendation, give them drafts of your essays, your resume, if you feel comfortable, your transcripts, right? Give as much as possible. I will never forget the time a student, and this was a while ago, but I will never forget the time a student came into my office, and she gave me literally a self-addressed envelope to the place that was stamped. Everything was so nice and neat. She gave me her resume. She gave me her essays. She gave me everything and said, here, I really appreciate you writing me this letter of recommendation. And she made it easy for me, right? So make it easy for your recommenders so they can do the same. So if you have any uncertainties about programs, whether it be, research program or a scholarship program or any program, ask before you apply. But be sure you read the FAQs, because if you don't read the FAQs and you're asking these questions, then they might say, oh, this person doesn't pay attention to detail, right? Make sure that your schedule permits full participation in the program. So don't juggle too many things. Meet the deadlines, do not ask for extensions, apply to more than one program, and you might verify that your application has been received. Just a short, quick email, I applied to this program. I'm very excited about applying, thank you for your time and consideration. Oh, this is a good question. The question is, do you have any advice for what recommenders should write or should not write? So here's the cool thing. Whenever you look at the program, whether it be a scholarship program or whether it be like an RU program or some academic program, whatever the description is, it kind of tells you. It's kind of like when you apply for a job, right? When you apply for a job, you can see what they're looking for there. And so to make it easy for your recommenders, let me give you an example. So a lot of these programs will say, to introduce students to careers in research, right? So you might tell your recommender, I'm really interested in this program because I'm interested in getting involved in research, or I'm interested in grad school, or I'm interested in, whatever you're interested in. So the more information you tell them, the easier it's going to be them to write the letter, right? What recommenders should not write? They should not, if somebody writes a really poor letter of recommendation, it's basically not going to say much, so that's why you want to say, can you write me a strong letter of recommendation? Okay, so thank your recommenders. Always thank your recommenders, like always. The last thing you want to do is run into someone and have them say, oh, hey, I recommended you for that program. Did you get in? And you say, oh yeah, I got in. It's kind of a faux pas not to tell them. So make sure you always say thank you. I have an article on that. Handwritten notes are very nice, or simple emails nice as well. Things to avoid doing on your resume. I have another article on there. It's kind of a fun article. But things that you shouldn't do, to your resume. Sometimes they'll ask you for a student bio and a photo. So if you're like, I don't know what a bio is, I have some examples of what a bio is and a photo too. It's always nice to have a nice headshot that you can use for LinkedIn, or just having a headshot. And I know we all have that friend who takes like really nice photos, right? So, maybe you have a friend who takes a good photo, or maybe you have, an iPhone, you can take some really nice photos. So having those things, you'd be very surprised at how many, as you apply to things, that you're going to need these things, right? And so if you have them already, it's very helpful that you just, submit whatever they want. And I have some articles for these. So follow me on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn all the time, and I post articles on LinkedIn. I have an Instagram. I don't use my Instagram as much, but you can follow me on Instagram. But Facebook, Instagram, but LinkedIn I use quite often. So that's my kind of, presentation. I believe we have some time, so I'd love to answer some questions that folks have, and I'm happy to share this presentation with Brian if he wants to share it to the group.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Really, really eye-opening and enlightening. We did have one question just pop up into the chat. In your opinion, do you think having experience for your major can help balance out your acceptance rate if you have a low GPA, or would schools prefer GPA over experience / volunteer work?
That's an excellent question. So we get a lot of students. I mentioned that I was actually reading transfer applications. We get a lot of students with 4.0 GPAs and nothing else, right? 4.0 GPAs and nothing else. That tells us nothing about the student. I would actually rather have a student who has a experience. Maybe their GPA is not a 4.0, but they have experience, they have interest in the major, they have leadership and things like that. Now, when you say low GPA, right, it's all relative. If there are maybe there's a reason why your GPA isn't as high, and it's certainly not a reflection of your aptitude or your understanding or interest, right? The past 2 years, I will tell you that GPAs are, I mean, I think this whole, global pandemic has, impacted students so severely, whether it's, their mental health, their finances, their family, things like that. So really, I think that that's why it's really important. Like basically, like I was saying, like, tell them what you want them to know, not what you think they want to hear. So if your GPA, maybe you had a bad semester, you can explain that, right? You can explain that. But students should not, focus solely on the GPA, because the GPA is just one thing that folks look at. It's not the end all be all, believe me.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to encourage folks that are on the call to maybe post some questions in the chat. Tiffany, I got to thank you for being on top of the chat. It's been the easiest moderation gig so far, keeping a close eye on the questions as they came up. There may have been that showed up as a direct message to you, because it seems like there was a lot of them that followed that beat. But I did want to loop back to a question that I saw that was public. Maybe that you can address. This student asks, what are some useful websites where we can find scholarships? Maybe another plugin for REU Finder, maybe some other resources.
So each of your school probably has, I think the Career Center, also check your email. I cannot stress that enough. Check your email. It's very likely the Mesa folks will send you stuff. Brian will send stuff. Check your email. I can't stress that enough. Phi Theta Kappa, is anyone in Phi Theta Kappa? They usually will have scholarships for students. If you're is anyone in SHIP, the SHIP chapter? So SHIP is, I think it's $10 for a student membership. They actually have scholarships. They have a ton of scholarships available for students, and you can apply to those. There's a lot of different organizations that you can get involved with, and they'll send you, scholarships. There are some, some different scholarship websites. Also, maybe depending on, if you have a certain, I'm trying to think. There was some specific to this area. I think it was the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. They had some scholarships, but I will tell you, do not pay. Any of those websites that are like, oh, you pay money and we'll give you a list of scholarships. No, don't do that. Don't pay for them. Also, Skyline has a scholarship. You guys used to do it in spring, I believe.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, there's one that's facilitated by the foundation. There's the website there. Also, it's a good segue for us to plug in our STEM Center website. Has a Google Sheet listed with all of the scholarships and internship opportunities. And then want to shout out Glenn/Shannon in the chat also posted a link, pathways to science.org undergrads.aspx. And on that note, I think we do have a raised hand from Glenn/Shannon. So I'm going to go ahead and pin your videos. And if you have a question, go ahead. I think we can unmute.
Yeah, so I had a quick question. Something that I really value just in the education system itself is the ability to just move around freely within the majors and stuff like that. But as a transfer student who is thinking about going to a UC, that's not really that much of a possibility. You apply as a major and then you stay within that major. I don't think that I'm going to switch that much, but I wanted to ask you how I could take advantage of just academic freedom, even though I am bound by this major that I had already selected prior to even getting into whichever schools that I am going to. So I applied as an energy engineering major, but my focus lies mostly in sustainability and wherever that may take me. So I don't exactly know if that is going to be in energy, but I just chose what I thought was most interesting to me right now. And I'd like to really explore that. So I wanted to ask for your opinion or your advice on how I can still make the most of academic freedom, despite having to already establish a major that I wanted to apply as, and I won't be able to really move that much around that.
That's a really good question. And it's funny you asked that because I had a student who had a similar situation. She's a civil engineering student and she's like, I only have 5 semesters, and she's interested in business, right? And so she's like, I'm really interested in business, but it's not like I can minor in business. So that's where the extracurricular programs come into play, right? So as someone who's interested in sustainability, you can get involved in, there's probably, like, if you come to Berkeley, there's Cal Environmental, there's certainly different student organizations you can get involved in. There's programs that you can get involved in. There's classes you can take. There's seminars. I think a lot of times students think, well, do I have to double major? No, you don't have to double major. Or you have to minor. No, you don't have to minor either. You can just get involved in things. And if you decide that you want to go to graduate school, you can maybe, you can do a graduate degree in something that's related, but a little bit more focused, or maybe not related at all, right? So you do have the flexibility, although maybe you don't have the flexibility in the coursework as much. You can probably either take classes here and there, or get involved in activities that are of interest to you. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's really helpful. It's just because, I completed all these requirements, and I think that, the transfer system is rigid like that, and that you complete these requirements, you check all these boxes, and then you transfer as a certain major. So I'm just finding ways that I can, truly explore what I want to do. I have found ways to do that at community college, but I would like to continue that despite, already have declaring my major at Berkeley, which was energy engineering, even though I'm more specifically in sustainability. So yeah, that does answer my question. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hey, Miss Tiffany, just want to say hi. Last time I saw you was 2 years ago before COVID. You did a talk here as well. And I asked you a few questions about about passion and stuff like that, financial stability. And yeah, I'm still on it. And the resources you gave, Pathways to Science, a lot of people have been helped because of that site. I've given it to a lot of people, but yeah, just wanted to say hi and thank you for your help. And I hope to see you in Berkeley.
Yeah, definitely. It's awesome to see you.
All right. I saw one more question pop up in the chat from a student. Vaughn asks, if a person does extra classes that are related to that person's major, but it is not a requirement for the college/university that person wants to transfer to, do those extra classes impact that person's chances for admission?
Yes. Actually, as I mentioned, we were reading transfer applications. So even if the class doesn't articulate, if you're taking a programming class, or if you're taking a class that's related to your major, the question that students always have this kind of missed opportunity is that, tell us how you have on the personal insight questions, how have you prepared for upper division coursework? That's where you want to specifically talk about those, right? I took this MATLAB class. I took this, bio class. I took this chemistry class. I took organic chemistry, right? Things like that, that they're going to see that you kind of went above and beyond because you were interested. So look at assist, because assist is important because you want to make sure that you're taking the right classes, but also if your school doesn't have the strongly recommended classes that articulate, that's totally okay. You take what is related to your major that will help you in the future, and if your school doesn't offer the strongly recommended courses, it's not going to hurt you. It's absolutely not going to hurt you. And on the subject of kind of advising, what I used to tell students was, you want to triple check, right? You want to look at assist. You want to talk to, your counselor, and go straight to the source, right? Go straight to the source. So whether it be, someone like Brian, someone who's, maybe the UC rep, right? They probably have UC reps that go to the transfer center, right? What you don't want to do is you don't want to say, well, my counselor told me to take this class, because sometimes folks, you know, things change, right? So triple check. So check with your counselor, check with assist.org, check with the transfer rep, check with, you know, the folks in the STEM center to make sure that you're taking what you need, because you don't want to spend an extra year if you don't have to, right? And you don't want to take classes that you don't need unless they're of interest, right?
Absolutely. Cannot agree more. Let's see. So I think that's most of the questions that I got from the students, and I wanted to prioritize that. But I also wanted to kind of segue into introducing some other resources that are available in this an opportunity to quadruple check. And so I want to give a chance to give the floor to Emily and Jing to kind of promote the revival of the MESA program. And so let me just go ahead and pin the videos. All right, Jing and Emily, it's all yours.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Tiffany. That was really, it's great to see you, and really nice to hear all of the good things that you were saying about the MESA and your experience here. And yeah, so Jing and I are reviving the program, and we'd love to welcome you all into this space. I'm going to put the link again to the MESA Center at Skyline. We're really excited to welcome you in the space, and yeah, we just can't wait to start working with some of you all. So I want to let Jing also say something, so you get to know us both. You get two of us. So
yeah, first I'd like to thank you, Tiffany. This is a great opportunity, and you actually talked about some secret that nobody seems has talked about recommendation letters. So I really, I got those requests from students asking for recommendation letters. To be honest, some of them I don't even remember they were in my classroom. So this is also popped to me, like, when a student asking for a recommendation letter, how do I get a strong recommendation letter from my instructor? It's not at the end you need the recommendation letter. It's at the beginning when you start to prep for your transfer, or even long before that. You need to plan that ahead. You need to know, research I need to get in, and then a kind of a relationship I need to build up with my friends and also with my instructors. And then I need to show my instructor my ability, what I can do, my teamwork skills, my leadership skills. Those things you have to show to your instructor, your professor, and then they will be able to write in your letter. So thank you so much for tell them, from not from the faculty point of view, because I feel like every time if I talk, they would think, oh, you're faculty, that's why you say this, So like Brian and Emily said, that MESA is coming back, and we will have activities in our third floor. So come to check us out. And the space is yours, okay? The space are for all of you. Like Tiffany said, you don't need to pay anything. It's a study space. It's a space for discussion. We do have, we do connect with STEM Center, but that's all the space for students. So welcome to check us out, all students here. I don't even see your face, but yeah, Emily and I were trying to put everything back. And if you have questions, making sure you email us, and we are more than happy to support you.
On that note, I just wanted to thank Tiffany once again for spending the last hour with us, sharing a lot of amazing insights, tips and tricks for all of our students. And I want to also thank the participants on the call for such awesome questions. And then Tiffany, want to just give you the space for the last word for Science in Action today.
All right. Well, I just want to I just want to, just thank you. I mean, like I said, Skyline really holds a very special place. I know, even though I personally don't know all of you, I know the community, and I know the types of students that I've encountered through Skyline. Some of which, many alums who are doing some phenomenal things. And so if an opportunity comes that I can, connect them to you, I know that they would love to come back and talk about their experience to reach out to the next generation. Because that's an important thing too, right? Kind of reaching forward and reaching back. And you're a part of a family. You have this amazing network of folks that truly care about your success. And so I hope to see many of you at Berkeley, or maybe, other schools, or whatever it is you decide to do. But it's been my pleasure, and thank you so much.